くの部屋でございます。今日はもう小さい方々に圧倒的の人気漫画、それからテレビでもアニメーションで皆さんご覧になってらっしゃるんですけれども、ドクタースランプをお書きになってらっしゃる方でいらっしゃるんですが、その中のあられちゃんというのはもうご覧になったことがなくてもあられちゃんという名前をお聞きになったと思いますけど、鳥山明さん、今日のお客様です。
どうも。
こんにちは、よくいらしてくださいました。
If you're a fan of anime or manga, then you know the name Akira Toriyama. And if you clicked on this video, then you know that he is the creator of the most successful and beloved IPs in the world that influenced an entire generation of artists. What did this man do that fundamentally changed everything in the industry? Dr. Slump. Is this the series that launched Toriyama's career, selling over 35 million copies in Japan alone, making it a worldwide phenomenon across the world? Well, yeah, but that's not what we're here to talk about today. As a matter of fact, Dr. Slump wasn't the only thing to come out of Japan in 1986. The other is one I think you'll be more familiar with. Akira Toriyama's Dragon Ball became one of the most successful manga series of all time, selling over 160 million copies in Japan alone, and is estimated to have sold over 300 million copies worldwide, and has been dubbed one of the most influential manga series of all time, inspiring an entire generation of artists, including the creators of One Piece, Naruto, and Bleach. And while all of that is true, it is not what we're here to talk about. What we're here to discuss is a series that was based on the story of Dragon Ball, but in fact was not created by Toriyama at all. Except for a few character designs, the creator of one of the most beloved manga series in the world gave the creative keys to Toei Animation, who in 1996 decided to make a show about the last adventures of Goku and his friends. That show was to be called While it only ran for 64 episodes compared to Dragon Ball Z's 291 episode run, the studio was able to release one TV movie and managed to end the story of Dragon Ball. Even if it didn't meet fans' expectations, the show will go on to premiere in Japan on February 7th, 1996 until its end on November 19th, 1997, and will be the last thing fans saw of the Dragon Ball series. Until 2008, a decade later, when Toei Animation released a short film called Goku and Friends Return, which took place after the events of the Majin Buu saga and introduced Vegeta's little brother.
Taburu. なんでお前がここに? 兄さん!
However, this wouldn't immediately be the return of the Dragon Ball series until the release of Dragon Ball Z Battle of the Gods in 2013, which would later become the foundation of Akira Toriyama's epic return to the franchise with Dragon Ball Super. But for a decade, Dragon Ball GT ended the series with Goku waving goodbye to the audience, leaving a legacy behind that will live on through his great-great-grandson, Goku Jr. Today, we're here to talk about the series that followed Goku and his friends on their last journey with the Dragon Balls. This is Dragon Ball GT, the underrated series. Before we get into it, I'd like to disclose that I am actually 22 years old. I was only 5 months old during the run of GT, and I didn't know that it had such a divide between the fanbase. I started watching Dragon Ball GT when I was 12 years old in 2009, well after it had already ended. But by that time, I had seen most of Dragon Ball Z, a few episodes of Dragon Ball, and many other anime series that Funimation was running on cable TV on channel 9407 at 10 p.m. every night, Monday through Friday, including weekends, in the year 2006. That makes me a 13-year anime veteran. So not that long in comparison to others who are years ahead of me, but I like to think that I had some skin in the game. Anyway, the point is, I loved Dragon Ball GT growing up, and so did the rest of my friends. But I haven't watched it since I was a kid, and I decided to sit down and rewatch all 64 episodes to see if it still holds up today. Now, while I was rewatching the show, I did notice that it was pretty dated and a little sloppy. Then again, Dragon Ball Z and Dragon Ball premiered earlier than GT, and their animations still hold up to today, except for a few outliers. So, let's get through some questionable design choices and the animation mistakes that were too hard for me to ignore. Start with this, and this one, and this one, and that one, and this one, and oh my god, what is that? Now, how about we take a look at some animations that were awesome in GT. There's this one, and this one, and that one, and this one. Oh yeah, this one too. And this one, and this one, and oh my god, that looks awesome. Now, there's a lot more examples, but I don't want to go through all of them, so let's move on and talk about the character design choices. Let's first talk about Goku. Goku actually looks pretty cool in the first episode when he's training with Oob. He kept the same outfit from the end of Dragon Ball Z, and I think he's actually drawn pretty well. Kid Goku though looks sharper than the Dragon Ball Kid Goku, but I think it fits into the art style of the series. Actually, I really like everyone's design change, except for whatever this is. Just, let's not talk about this one yet. The villains' character designs also look pretty badass, except for Super 17. I mean, his character design is cool, but it's poorly done in the show. There's moments when he looks badass, and then there's moments when he looks like this. Yeah, so, Baby looks pretty cool, for an alien android. I like how his character design changes whenever he takes over people's bodies, especially when he takes over Vegeta's body and when he turns into a Great Ape. I think it looks pretty cool. Also, the Shadow Dragons I think are done well enough that it doesn't pull me out of the show. I mean, Omega Shenron looks decent, but I think he's in need of a major upgrade because now whenever I look at him, he just looks like a poor man's Exodia. As for the rest of the characters, let's see. Dende and Mr. Popo look the same, and so does King Kai. Speaking of which, he still hasn't been wished back to life yet. Piccolo looks the same. Dr. Gero looks the same. Dr. Mew is just the alien version of Dr. Gero. The rest of the side characters didn't really bother me, except for this guy. Man, are they ugly. Anyway, after I finished watching the show, a word popped into my head when I was trying to think of what to describe my feelings about the animation, and the word that I could think of was vintage. The adjective of vintage is denoting something of high quality, or characteristic of the best period of a person's work. You might also refer to it as retro animation. Animated TV series in the 80s and 90s, like Sailor Moon, Dragon Ball, Inuyasha, Detective Conan, Yu Yu Hakusho, and many others exude the feeling of warmth and familiarity. Although the animations of Dragon Ball GT may be flawed at moments, the artwork is classic 90s anime, and that's something that I miss in today's world of animation. If you didn't watch Dragon Ball GT or just don't remember, well then you're in luck, because I'm going to give a rundown on the story and plot of all 64 episodes. Now, if you've already watched Dragon Ball GT, then you can skip to these timestamps to hear my review of each season. Okay, so did you leave yet? The rest of you still here? Really? Great. To help us out with the order of the timeline, we're going to divide all the episodes into 3 sections. Season 1 will cover episodes 1 to 40, otherwise known as the Baby Saga. Season 2 will cover episodes 41 to 47, otherwise known as the Super 17 Saga. And Season 3 will cover episodes 48 to 64, otherwise known as the Shadow Dragon Saga. Okay, you ready? Here we go! We start off the episode 10 years after the events of Dragon Ball Z, with Goku and Oops still training on the lookout with Dende and Mr. Popo. We then cut to these guys trying to steal the Black Star Dragon Balls, while Goku and Oob are busy training. The two then finish their training and Oob says goodbye as he goes back to his village while Goku stays to have some food. Soon the Dragon Balls are used and Black Star Shenron is summoned. Goku goes to check out the noise and is unintentionally wished to be small again. Goku shrinks, says oh well, and decides to go eat some more food. While he's eating, Goku runs into Master Roshi and Pan. The two are surprised to see him as a kid again, and they decide to return to Chi-Chi's place, where we see an older, more sophisticated Gohan trying to understand what happened to Goku. And Chi-Chi is crying because she has a child for a husband, literally and figuratively. King Kai then reveals that if they don't find all 7 Black Star Dragon Balls in 1 year's time, then the Earth will explode. Because when a wish is made using the Black Star Dragon Balls, the negative energy that is left behind consumes the planet, and eventually self-destruction. So they must search the galaxy for all 7 Black Star Dragon Balls and return them back to Earth before time's up, thus beginning their journey that will take 40 episodes to tell. Now let's forward through a couple of filler episodes because, oddly enough, the story really isn't about the Dragon Balls, but about a secret plan that the mysterious Dr. Mew has in place. Although, I'd like to mention a few things, like this planet ruled by a dictator who keeps his people in fear and in poverty. I liked it when they overthrew him and brought a big ass bank of taxes to rip in front of the locals. That felt pretty good. We also run into a droid called Giru who eats the Dragon Ball radar and is forced to go along with Goku and the gang on their journey. He has an ongoing rivalry with Pan, which to be honest, I don't really care about and it kinda gets annoying at times. But there's also this giant. So yep, there's that. Also at one point, Trunks dresses up as a bride to trick a village monster into handing over the Dragon Ball and to stop terrorizing the villagers. Yep, that happens too. I also have to mention these guys, who are just inconsequential to the plot. And there's this character, Taki. To be honest, I don't really want to talk much about this character because there's this really creepy scene where he tries to undress a 14-year-old Pan against her will, and all you hear is Pan yelling, "Stop, somebody help." I mean, come on. But just be glad that I'm not showing you those scenes because, ugh, it makes my skin crawl. We then go to this other ugly looking creature called Lord Lude. He's defeated in 2 episodes and is completely useless. We also have the side plot of Giru betraying Goku, Trunks, and Pan on his home world and having Goku fight this general called Ryudo. Yeah, I don't care much about that guy. But it turns out Giru wasn't betraying the gang after all. It was Trunks' plan all along. Wow. But really, that betrayal really caught me off guard and I actually thought it was pretty well done. So, here we go. The big reveal. Dr. Mew's secret plan to conquer the galaxy is another alien android baby. Wait, what? You mean the android baby that we were supposed to be afraid of wasn't Lord Lude after all? It was actually this other android baby that's a lot smaller and hasn't even been born yet? Okay, wow. Look, everyone. I'm so afraid of this ugly looking, oh my god, its eyes are open. Anyway, Baby escapes the capsule, but then shortly after blows himself up. Or did he? No, he didn't. There's your answer. Instead, Baby goes up Dr. Mew's ass and escapes with him on his ship. He then proceeds to escape from Dr. Mew's body by blowing a hole in his back, while also releasing the first Black Star Dragon Ball. And now, Baby has his eyes on Goku. There's also this scene that is reminiscent of the movie Alien, where Goku, Pan, and Trunks search an abandoned spaceship hurtling towards a dying star. That was pretty cool. There's also a lot of moments in this saga that were sci-fi-esque, like these scenes where Baby takes control of the following people. This space boy, this doctor, this lady, and everyone on the space plane. So after being beaten by Goku, Baby heads to the Earth, and the first Saiyan that he comes across is Goten, while he's in the middle of a date with just the dumbest human being in Dragon Ball history. Baby then defeats Goten in under 2 minutes and takes over his body. Thinking he's all that, Baby soon finds Gohan and discovers that Gohan is way more powerful than Goten. So, he beats him in 2 seconds, and now Baby has both control of Gohan and Goten. We then cut to Vegeta finally shaving his mustache, after his daughter embarrassed him to shave it off.
Look, Dad. That mustache has got to go. It makes you look like a total geek. It makes you look like a total geek. Total geek.
After driving his daughter back from a day of shopping, Vegeta runs into Gohan, controlled by Baby, and the origins of his story is revealed. Turns out Baby is a Tuffle, whose race was exterminated by the Saiyans and their home world eventually becoming Planet Vegeta. Baby seeks revenge on behalf of his people by taking over Vegeta's body and using the Black Star Dragon Balls to bring back Planet Tuffle. Now let's skip a bunch of episodes where Baby takes control of all of our heroes on Earth after defeating Goku temporarily and succeeds in using the Black Star Dragon Balls to wish his planet Tuffle back to life. During all that time, Goku is essentially dead, but not really. Instead, he goes into a third dimension where he meets the caretakers, along with 2 characters, a father and a son. The two eventually escape from there and meet up with Kabito Kai and Grand Kai on their home world where they can come up with a plan to help Goku defeat Baby. And that plan was to get Goku's tail back by pulling the little stump sticking out of his ass. After a lot of yelling and screaming, Goku's tail finally grows back to normal and he is ready to fight Baby. Now at this point, I haven't mentioned 2 key characters that have made this next part so emotional for me. And those 2 characters are Majin Buu and Mr. Satan, the MVPs of the series. While Baby was taking control of everyone on Earth, Majin Buu kept Hercule and Pan safe in his belly until they had to move to Planet Tuffle. While they were at Planet Tuffle, Majin Buu discovered Oob fighting Baby and decided to take Hercule and Pan outside the city. In his last farewell to his best friend, Mr. Satan, we are reminded of their friendship and the care that they have for each other.
Mr. Satan will always be my close friend.
And so, with a heartfelt goodbye, Majin Buu leaves Mr. Satan to help Oob fight Baby. The two finally meet, and the story between Oob and Majin Buu is revealed.
Long ago, Boo and Oob were one and the same. This Majin Buu brought all his energies together and a good Boo was created. It was you, Oob, born of the good inside.
They then merged together, creating Majin Oob. The show calls them Maju, but I'm not going to call them that. There's also some theories online that Majin Oob is the human version of a Super Saiyan God, which would make him Super Majin God or Super Human Majin God. Anyway, the point is, Majin Oob is now incredibly powerful until Baby overpowers him and turns him into a piece of chocolate, which then Baby proceeds to eat. So yeah, kind of lame. Goku arrives just in time to save the day. However, even with his tail back, Goku still may not be strong enough to defeat Baby. After the battle, Goku is pretty much beaten down at this point. While he's laying down, he turns his gaze to the earth and begins to look at its beautiful sight. And soon, it begins to take over Goku's senses. His chest is pounding, his consciousness is losing, and his primal instincts take over, turning him into a giant ape. But before he could lose complete control, Pan succeeds in calming him down and Goku learns to control his true power, transforming him into the legendary Super Saiyan 4. With this transformation, Goku has the power to finally defeat Baby, until he does a Vegeta and lets it go to his head because now Baby also turns into a great ape, leveling the playing field. Eventually, Goku does end up defeating Baby, and Kabito Kai cures everybody on Earth from Baby's influence with the secret water. However, the use of the Dragon Balls are taking into effect on the Earth, and our heroes only have 2 weeks left to save everyone from total destruction. During their discussion, Vegeta suggests to migrate everyone to Planet Tuffle as a refuge center until they can use the Namekian Dragon Balls to bring back planet Earth. Mr. Satan then convinces the people of Earth to migrate to the planet Tuffle, while Goku and Kibito Kai uses instant transmission to take as many people as they can. Unfortunately, minutes before the Earth exploding, Goku runs out of energy and fails to take Piccolo to planet Tuffle. Piccolo then says goodbye to his old friend Gohan and is left to die on planet Earth along with the Black Star Dragon Balls.
Goodbye, my friend.
Afterwards, the Namekians wish for planet Earth to be restored, while Bulma throws a party to celebrate the world free from Baby's influence. And that, my friends, is the story of the Baby Saga. In summary, I think these 40 episodes are pretty well done. Excluding a few filler episodes, I don't think this series is as bad as people think it is. Sure, are there some pretty bad animations? Yeah, but they keep the story personal to the Saiyans and the people of Earth. I love the lore behind the Dragon Balls, which will be further explored in the Omega Saga. But in this season, I think they did a pretty good job setting up the story behind the Dragon Balls. All in all, this season, I could definitely say that it is as dystopian and as sci-fi as Dragon Ball gets. And now, we begin the Super Android 17 saga. We start off 1 year after the events of the Baby Saga, with Goku entering in the junior division of the World Martial Arts Tournament, while Pan enters into the main division of the tournament. The tournament introduces a few interesting and weird characters, and oh my god, what the hell is that? Pan eventually drops out of the tournament, and Goku is taken out by the weakest character in Dragon Ball history, even by Yamcha standards. Afterwards, we're left with Majin Oob versus Mr. Satan, who announced that he will retire after this tournament in the final round. Majin Buu convinces Oob to let Mr. Satan win, and so he does, and Hercule wins the World Martial Arts Tournament. We later cut to Dr. Gero and Dr. Mew meeting in Hell and plotting a plan to trap Goku in Hell while they take control of Android 17 on Earth with a replica in Hell. Android 17 attacks Trunks while a portal opens between Earth and Hell. Goku does end up going to Hell and confronts his old enemies, Cell and Frieza. The Z Fighters also face some old enemies, while an attack on Earth begins. Android 17 finds 18, and in an effort to convince her to join him, he decides to kill Krillin. Later on, Gohan, Goten, Trunks, and Vegeta attack Android 17, but eventually fail to do so. After the failed attempt, Super Android 17 is finally formed while Piccolo tries to help Goku escape from Hell, in which he does with the help of Dende. And so, Goku returns to Earth while Super 17 kills Dr. Gero. The two finally have their battle, and Goku attempts to blow himself up to save everyone from 17, but unfortunately fails, and Super 17 then kills Dr. Mew, while Goku and Android 18 work together to defeat Super 17, which they do in an unclimactic way, but in order to heal the planet, the Z Fighters attempt to use the Dragon Balls again, but this time, something's not right. A dragon is summoned, and we are left to wonder who this mysterious dragon really is. If this part seems shorter than the first season, that's because it is. The saga only runs for 7 episodes, and could have really just been turned into a movie if done with a bigger budget. Speaking of budgets, I think they ran either money or time during the season because it really felt rushed and convoluted. However, there were a lot of highlights this season, like the Vegeta and Nappa reunion, the Cell and Frieza fight, the fight between Super 17 and Goku was well done. And as far as everything else goes, it was pretty decent. The way Goku and Android 18 defeated Super 17 was kind of anticlimactic, and that made the entire story arc feel much to be desired. Again, I feel like they rushed this story arc because they were saving the rest of the budget for the next season. The Dragon Balls are broken, but are still used by Bulma and the others. Black Smoke Shenron appears and the history of the Dragon Balls are explained. The Dragon Balls turn blue and spread across the world as new forms of dragons. Goku then decides to go and defeat all 7 Shadow Dragons on his own. Pan and Giru, however, join Goku on his adventure to find and defeat all the Shadow Dragons. I don't really want to go through all the sideline stories, so instead I'll just list all 7 dragons in order of appearance. There's this dragon, this dragon, this dragon, that dragon, this dragon, and this dragon. We then have a whole episode of Vegeta having flashbacks about his life and his desire to become a Super Saiyan 4. During this episode, Bulma even mentions the ability to transform into Super Saiyan 5. Unfortunately, it's been 22 years since that mention, and we still haven't had that come to fruition. After Goku and Pan defeat most of the Shadow Dragons, we're finally left with only one dragon, Shin Shenron, aka Omega Shenron. Goku does his best to battle Omega, and although he comes up short, there is one more Saiyan who is finally ready to transform into a Super Saiyan 4. Vegeta, the Prince of all Saiyans, arrives with Bulma, his princess, and the final stages of Super Saiyan 4 has begun. With Vegeta now becoming a Super Saiyan 4, he and Goku team up to battle Omega Shenron. However, 2 Super Saiyan 4s won't do it, so Vegeta suggests fusion. And so, Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta is born, and now it's finally time to take on Omega Shenron. In retaliation, Omega Shenron attacks with a negative energy blast, but Gogeta changes that negative energy into positive energy and attacks back with a Big Bang Kamehameha. But this wouldn't be Dragon Ball if someone didn't pull a Vegeta, and that's exactly what happens. Gogeta wastes his fusion time and the two separate while Omega Shenron absorbs the Dragon Balls yet again. But this time, Goku swallows the 4-star Dragon Ball, which then unfortunately turns him back into a kid. We do have a shining light in the midst of all hopelessness, and it's Nova Shenron, back from the dead. Unfortunately, no matter how courageously he fought, Nova was beaten by Omega Shenron. Soon afterwards, Omega takes out Goku and destroys most of the Earth. Not giving up, Vegeta tells everyone to leave Earth while he fights off Omega. After a hard-fought battle, Vegeta is defeated, but hope is not lost yet. Goku comes back with the Spirit Bomb from everywhere in the universe, and Omega is finally defeated, and the Dragon Balls are finally restored. Later on, the original Shenron appears, and the Dragon Balls have to be separated from the Earth for a long time. But before the Dragon Balls vanish, Goku makes one last wish, and that is to restore Earth after the battle with Omega Shenron. Goku then leaves everyone behind to go train with Shenron and says goodbye to some old friends. He first visits Krillin and Master Roshi for one last goodbye. Then he goes to visit Piccolo, who's still in hell by the way, to say one last goodbye. After all is said and done, the Dragon Balls are absorbed into Goku's body, and Goku is not seen for around 100 years. We then fast forward 2 generations to the 64th World Martial Arts Tournament, and there are statues of Goku and Mr. Satan in remembrance of the heroes who fought to save the world. Grandma Pan and Bola's granddaughter, whose name is Bulma coincidentally, are also in the audience watching the fight between Goku Jr. and Vegeta Jr. We finally end the series with a collage of old Dragon Ball footage, along with Goku riding off into the sunset with his old friend, Nimbus. And that, my friends, is the story of Dragon Ball GT. After all is said and done, I think the Shadow Dragon saga was pretty decent. Not as deep and personal as the Baby saga, but way better and more fleshed out than the Super 17 saga. I'd also like to mention the main highlight of this season, Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, and the introduction of the Big Bang Kamehameha. A few downsides to this season though is they tease Gotenks a lot, but we never really got to see him. I would have loved to seen a grown-up Gotenks go in on one of the Shadow Dragons, but no, everyone but Goku is still just so weak. On the other hand, Vegeta got a major upgrade in art design and in power stats with his Super Saiyan 4 transformation. And so, if I had to rank these seasons, I'd put the Baby Saga in first, then the Shadow Dragon Saga in second, and finally the Super 17 Saga in third. Still an overall strong series with good seasons. Some more well done than others, but I'd blame that on the budget restraint. And now, let's talk about the comparisons between Dragon Ball Super and Dragon Ball GT. The difference between the early episodes of Dragon Ball Super and Dragon Ball GT are the animators. In 1996, the animators who worked on GT were fresh off of Dragon Ball Z, compared to the new animators whose first attempt at animating was on Dragon Ball Super. So when you have burnt out veteran animators, you get Dragon Ball GT animation. When you get brand new animators, you get Dragon Ball Super animation. Although Dragon Ball Super's animation has gotten a lot better since 2015 and the latest Broly film looked amazing, that didn't come without mistakes. The God of Destruction saga, the Golden Frieza saga, and the Future Trunks saga had a lot of poorly done animations that divided fans and brought the quality of the show down a level due to the rushed production. However, the artwork and animation saw a significant increase in quality during the Universal Survival Saga and finally becoming a piece of beauty to admire with the first Dragon Ball Super movie, Broly. On the other hand, when we talk about Dragon Ball GT's animation and artwork, there's no comparison to be needed. Are there signs of sloppy animations that reveal a burnout animation team? Yes, but even though the animation was rushed, the one thing that team got right was the artwork. Dragon Ball GT has that warmth, familiarity that comes with being a vintage animated series. Can the same be said for the early episodes of Dragon Ball Super? I'll leave that for you to decide. One thing that I can say without a shadow of a doubt in my mind about Dragon Ball GT is that it gets its transformations and power scaling right. I can't say the same for Dragon Ball Super, but that doesn't mean that it can't be fixed. Now, I don't know about you, but I miss when power transformations used to make sense and wasn't only available to Goku. In the Cell Saga, we saw Gohan have his Ultimate Super Saiyan 2 transformation, which is the best moment in Dragon Ball Z history, in my opinion. But on top of that, we also had Vegeta's Ultimate Sacrifice, which was also incredible. There's also Gohan's other transformation into Ultimate Gohan in the Majin Buu Saga. Then we had Super Saiyan 3 with Goku, then Super Saiyan 4 with Goku, all of which are amazing. But then we had Super Saiyan God with Goku, then Super Saiyan Blue with Goku, then Ultra Instinct with Goku. Sense something wrong about this pattern? Yeah, all the new awesome transformations has only been for Goku, with the exception of Vegeta. I mean, in Dragon Ball GT, we had Gohan asking time and time again to help his father fight every threat that comes their way, but is sidelined because he's too weak. They even tease adult Gotenks, but it never happens because they're also too weak to fuse. This issue of exclusive transformations needs to stop. Everyone deserves to have their moment to shine without Goku immediately coming in and stealing all the thunder. The power scaling, on the other hand, is a problem that desperately needs to be fixed in Dragon Ball Super. GT, I think, did a great job in establishing everybody's power level. It at least made the battle scenes make sense and believable. By the way, I don't want you to think that I'm against Goku having his moments. That's not the case. But every time Goku is at his last breath and is close to death, but then his friends come to rescue and they end up defeating their enemy together, those kind of moments I love, and I wish there were more of it in Dragon Ball Super because GT had the motto of, if you're not a Super Saiyan 4, then don't even bother. Here, take Oop for instance. He had an epic moment with Majin Buu where they join together and become a badass fighter, ready to take on Baby, only to be defeated in the next episode. All I'm saying is, share the epic transformations with other cool characters, not only for Goku. That being said, I would love to see a Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta in Dragon Ball Super, but I want it to make sense in relation to scaling. In my opinion, a Super Saiyan 4 should be more powerful than Super Saiyan Blue and Super Saiyan God. Those forms I see as the mystical transformations, while a Super Saiyan 4 is rooted deep in Saiyan blood that only a Saiyan can perform because of their tails. You can even add in the Ultra Instinct technique and we'll get our Super Saiyan 5 that we've been dreaming of since Bulma mentioned it in 1997. Even with all my criticisms, I still love all the transformations introduced in Super. But I gotta say, Super Saiyan 4 is still my favorite transformation. I just think they look badass, and if you add any of my other favorite transformations from Super, like the Ultra Instinct, then that would put a big smile on my face. Now let's talk about Dragon Ball GT's story versus Dragon Ball Super's story. This one is tough for me because I love all the new stuff Super introduced, like the Universal Tournament, Future Trunks with Black Goku, and the new story arc that they're currently on, the Galactic Patrol Prisoner Saga. But do I like it more than the Baby Saga? Do I like it more than the Super 17 and Shadow Dragon sagas? I'll say that I like the Dragon Ball GT storyline better than Super's only because it feels more familiar and personal to the characters, whereas Dragon Ball Super's main storyline deals with other universes and galactic threats that are hard for me to get invested in. I mean, it's entertaining seeing these new characters emerge, but I do have a hard time caring about them because there are just so many of them. Dragon Ball GT also adds new characters to the plot, but it does so in a limited amount every episode so that it gives our main characters enough space for development. However, Dragon Ball GT does require you to have watched all of Dragon Ball and all of Dragon Ball Z in order to understand the plot of Super 17 and Omega Shenron. Whereas Dragon Ball Super is introducing new characters every season that we've never seen before, and it doesn't require you to have watched all of Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z in order to understand what's going on. Both leave the door open for more possibilities down the line, with Dragon Ball GT leaving the series to continue with Goku Jr. and Super having entire universes as their playground. Now I'd like to take some time and talk about Dragon Ball GT's character development and if it was done well or not. Let's start off with the main character of all the Dragon Ball series, Goku. In GT, Goku's a family man, even if he did leave his family for years to go train on the lookout with a person no one's ever heard about, but even then, you get the sense that he loves his friends and family. If you don't think so, then allow me to point out this photo. Once I saw this photo and realized just how much Goku means to everyone, it changed my mind and I started to think of him as a family man who occasionally leaves his family to go train for years on end. So yeah, Goku hasn't changed a bit. However, I will say that he is smarter in GT than he is in Super. In that series, he's just addicted to fighting and seems to lack any sense of responsibility. At least at GT, you can tell that he was doing everything he can to protect his family from dying, even if it meant blowing himself up. Now, let's talk about the Prince of all Saiyans, Vegeta, who I think is perfectly done in GT. And yes, I'm including that ridiculous mustache. You know, let's talk about that mustache. That thing was Vegeta's pride. He was more than glad to rock that mustache no matter what anyone thought about it. But when it came to his daughter, he was more than ready to shave it off if it meant pleasing Bola. I mean, look at all the times Chi-Chi asked Goku to stay with the family in comparison to Vegeta, who does anything Bulma and Bola ask of him. That, my friends, is a true responsible father and husband who will do anything to make his family happy, even if he has a stubborn way of going about it. By the way, let's not forget about that fiery Saiyan spirit whenever Vegeta is in battle. You can see that he never accepts defeat. Even when he knows that he's outskilled by his opponent, he still finds the strength to get back up and fight to protect the one thing he loves more than his Saiyan pride, his family. As for the rest of the characters, we're gonna review all of them quickly because if I didn't, we'd be here all day. So let's begin with Gohan. Gohan is weak and powerless as always. Pan, who's 14 years old, is fierce but reckless and most times that gets her into trouble. Trunks is just there. Other than the plan he and Gero make, he's pretty much sidelined. Majin Buu and Oob are definitely the VIPs of the series, while Mr. Satan is a team player and less obnoxious, which I enjoyed very much. Giru was annoying until the twist in Season 2, Episode 5. It wasn't until then when I started to like him. Goten is only interested in dating, but that sort of plays well into his character later on when he has the encounter with Baby. Krillin is a family man, but eventually gets killed and resurrected as always. Videl and Chi-Chi don't play any significance to the plot. Bulma is very important during the Baby Saga and plays a pivotal role in helping Vegeta transform into Super Saiyan 4. Bola, who's 12 years old, is fierce and convinces her dad to shave his mustache. As for our villains, I think Baby and the Shadow Dragons were well done, while Super 17 could have used more character development other than just the same old motivations from the Cell Saga. Okay, so I think that wraps up all the characters in the series, at least the ones that I care to mention. I could talk about these other characters, but they had so little to do and eventually were inconsequential to the plot. Now I want to talk about the legacy that GT left behind and the possibilities of interconnecting the main events of this timeline with Super's timeline. Let's start with the possibility of Dragon Ball GT being remade so that it can bring over all the new characters from Dragon Ball Super. I actually think that it's a risk worth taking because GT offered so many good ideas that can be further explored now that we have characters like Lord Beerus, Whis, the Omni King, and all the other universes available to use. You would have to fix a few plot holes and retcon a few characters in order for it to fit with the Super timeline, but other than that, there really isn't that much that needs to be changed in order for it to work. Although the legacy of Dragon Ball GT left many fans disappointed, I, however, was very satisfied with the way the story ended with Goku Jr. and Vegeta Jr. But I will say that I am open to remaking the series so that it can include all the characters and events that took place in Dragon Ball Super. And apparently, I'm not the only one who feels that way. I mean, look at all of the Dragon Ball video games that included GT characters. There is a hunger out there for these characters, and I believe the legacy of GT should be acknowledged and implemented into the main timeline. Well, here we are, nearing the very end of the video. But before I go, I'd like to give my final thoughts on Dragon Ball GT as a series. I think the transformations and power scaling were done right as well as the villains. I'd also like to mention the addition of old characters like Nappa, Frieza, and Cell were cool to see to come back, even if it was only for one episode. Overall, I'd say that I enjoyed rewatching Dragon Ball GT. Are there a few shortcomings? Sure. But in my opinion, the good outweighs the bad by a mile, and I don't think everything I watch has to be perfect in order for me to enjoy it. If you didn't enjoy Dragon Ball GT, then that's okay. Art hits us in different ways, and whatever your opinion may be, you're neither right or wrong, because art is subjective and is open for criticism and praise. So in conclusion, out of 64 episodes, a TV movie, and a legacy that influenced people like me growing up, I'd have to say that Dragon Ball GT is definitely an underrated series.